Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural event, the first episode of Flying with Phoenix, which is a speaker series hosted by LTF Ventures at the University of Chicago. And good morning, good evening, wherever you are, of course. It is my great honor to welcome Anna Fang, who is the CEO and founder of ZhenFund, to join us today to talk about her career and VC investing, startup ecosystem in the US and China, and all of those hot topics that people are interested in. And we've received a number of very good questions from our audience already before the event. And we'll try to ask as many of those questions as possible while Anna is with us for the next 50 minutes. So just a little bio, I guess, for Anna before we get into the event. Anna is, as I said, the CEO and founder of ZhenFund, which is an early stage venture capital firm in China focused on consumer, internet, and technology-enabled companies. In her role as a CEO, Anna leads ZhenFund's investment, portfolio management, and operations. Anna also has led ZhenFund's investment in unicorns such as Red, 小红书, Perfect Diary, 完美日记, 意图, Horizon Robotics, and VIP Kids. Anna started her career as an investment banker at JP Morgan in the consumer healthcare retail group. She later joined General Electric China's corporate business development team to help expand the company's M&A and BD efforts in China before she joined ZhenFund in 2011. Anna joined the Forbes Midas list of the world's top tech investor in 2019 at the age of 36. She's well recognized as a top early stage tech investor in China, having consistently been selected as one of China's top 10 early stage investors by Zero to IPO and one of China's 40 under 40 venture capital investors. Anna received an undergraduate degree from Columbia University in economics and a master's degree in business administration from Stanford Graduate School of Business. Welcome, Anna.
Thanks so much. Really great to be here at your inaugural event.
First of all, I would like to say congratulations. For those that you don't know, Anna actually was named again on the Forbes Midas list just 2 days ago as one of the world's top tech investor and rising on that list. She's actually now the top 5 VC investor in China and the second highest women on that list. So really congratulations, Anna. I guess my first question is, how does it feel to be on the Midas list 3 years in a row? And do you have a goal that you want to, be there every year in your career? Is it going to be frustrating if you don't appear next year?
Yeah, I bet this is probably the highest I'll ever be. I mean, I was surprised, to be honest, that it was this high on the list because everyone had so many good exits this year. Like obviously Alfred with DoorDash, Airbnb, and I think DoorDash too, maybe. Coinbase, huge IPO yesterday. So I think there are a lot of people who deserve to be on that list. And I was really quite surprised that we were so high. I think the way the list works, like it benefits early stage investing. And I think because ZhenFund is an angel fund, like the multiples that we achieve on these companies are really high. And also we invest like a lot in the early stage, like number of companies is pretty high. So there are a lot of companies that qualify when they do like their data submissions. So I think our just business model, their calculation, like their inputs kind of benefits like, the ZhenFund model. But the first year I was on it, I was pretty surprised because you have to submit your data, and we were submitting it for Bob, like Stu Alsher, my founder, our other founder. And then I guess like on there you put like credits, and then like I had my credit on there, and then like, and then I made the list, which was like a surprise. So it just happened by accident, to be honest, the first year. And then, now it is what it is. So yeah, it's super exciting, but it's really humbling. And honestly, like, it's hard to believe because like it made me like the #1 China female investor. And there's so many females that I look up to in this circle. So I'm like, something's wrong with this formula, but it's I'm just I'm like hoping no one really recognizes it because they'll be like, why is she #1 female? So anyway, I'm just keeping low.
Yeah, but that is really a great achievement. So congratulations again, Anna. But before we go into, I guess, speaking about your experience in VC investing and ZhenFund, I just want to take a journey back to where it all started, where your after college graduation from Columbia, I guess in 2006, right? You actually decided to stay in New York, 2004. So if I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, you decided to stay in New York for 2 years with know other about JP Morgan and IBD division. Uh, Back then, did you know that you will eventually land up in VC and the buy side when you go into JP Morgan, or did you have some other plans in play at that time?
no, I had like, this is like wildly different from how I imagined my life would be. Um, I did banking because back then a lot of that was like the normal, like banking consulting where a lot of people from Columbia did that. That was a popular job option after being an econ major. And consulting takes very few people. Like from Columbia back then, probably one or two people. It's so hard. Um, Banking too, but then there's so many jobs like, within banking. So I was actually a summer intern at JP Morgan. I failed a lot of my interviews for other banks. And then JP Morgan was like, JP Morgan and Bear Stearns were my last two. And so I was like, well, it's all or nothing. So I just kind of stopped being like nervous and then just kind of tried to be myself, I guess, in those interviews. I was more relaxed because I was like, this is it. And then I actually got those offers. So I was a summer intern and then I got the full-time offer. So I just did that after school. I didn't think much because I didn't want to go through the job hunting experience. So I did it for 2 years, which is like standard analyst program. But I, at that time was like right before China Olympics. And I was like, I think I want to just like go back and experience like what's going on. Cause I just, every day I was like reading the newspaper and everything was about China. And I was like, why am I sitting here in New York? So I decided to come back. And then I didn't expect to stay like forever. Because I loved New York. I hate New York now actually, but or I don't like it as much as I used to. But back then I really, really loved New York. And I was like, oh, I want to be back in New York. But anyway, coming back to China was like, this is where I want to be. This is where the growth is. It's just like so much more interesting. I'm meeting like a lot more interesting people. And like, so I decided just to stay in, like not go back to the US, but I did go back for 2 years of business school. Yeah.
Was there anything that you learned on your job as an entry-level analyst in JP Morgan that kind of helped you today doing your deal sourcing or investment process as a VC investor? And I guess another relevant question that some of our audience has asked is, do you think that going to banking is a good avenue for an undergrad who wants to eventually land a job in venture capital?
Um, I don't remember like much from banking in terms of any technical stuff, although we did a lot of training in that stuff. I think the best thing from banking, like the impression it left me with was that I can get anything done because you have to hustle so much in banking. And like literally for 2 years, like if I left the office at 2 a.m., that was pretty early. And I had to be in the office by 9. So I didn't sleep for like 2 years. And then like I didn't have, I mean, you guys probably, a lot of you guys know this from internships and stuff, but like weekends, forget about it. Like maybe I could have brunch, but then go to the office. And then Saturday, maybe you can leave at like 8 p.m. Sunday was definitely in the office until at least midnight. So you pretty much don't really have a life, but then you become really good friends with the people. It's almost like college, like you're working together all the time in like your cubicle, like you've become friends with a lot of people you work with. So it wasn't like, so you had friends at work, which is nice. But there were so many times when it's like time pressure. Like I remember like I actually got like rashes. And then said it was like because of stress, and I think there were so many times when like racing. I don't think this happens now, but back then there was like a printing center, and then you have to have the like quite like all the documents out by like whatever time, like the last pickups at like 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. And so we had to make all these deadlines all the time. And then you're always like, it's just like, there's so many deadlines. And so you're always rushing. And you, in the end, I remember there were times when like, I'm literally like shaking because I'm trying to get something done.
Do you think
And you
that
get yelled at.
toughen yourself up and prepare yourself
Yeah.
better?
Then you're just getting yelled at and hollered at. Like the first PowerPoint I did, I remember the guy who's actually a really good friend of mine now, but was like, what the fuck is this? Like literally that was the email that he just wrote, what the fuck is it? So it's like I think it's like looking back, it's like military experience for work. And I think that was so then after banking, I was like, okay, nothing can be too hard. Like, you can always get something done. And like, if you work hard. So I think I have like a good like work mentality, work ethic because of banking. But in a way, it was like a semi waste of time because it has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I mean, people think that VC is not that financial. PE is very financial, but VC is not really finance oriented. It's very basic finance. And especially angel investing, like, gosh, I don't even have to do a spreadsheet for anything because I'm investing in companies like before there's like any financials or anything. You don't need it. It doesn't even, it's irrelevant. So, I don't really use any of the skills, but it was good general work skills.
Awesome. And before we talk about how, I guess, you source deals as an angel investor and how you decide to invest, I just want to talk a little about your 1.5 year, I think, at General Electric China, where you, I think, came back and did a little M&A sourcing for the company. Did that help you with, I guess, getting an interest into the VC industry by looking at different companies in different industries for a few years?
I mean, such a small crowd. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. The best way it helped me was to get out of GE.
Okay.
No, it was a complete waste of time. The reason I did it is because in business school was really helpful because it opened my eyes to so many new industries. I think when I was at Columbia in like 2004, I mean, literally like banking was like one of the best jobs. And I think now people have so many more options. Like there was no like internet industry really that you could go to. But now I think like you guys, like a lot of people go to Google or Facebook, like big companies like that. Right. And I think being at Stanford, like opened my eyes up to the whole tech industry and like fast growing companies and strategy. And a lot of business schools like strategy classes. So like a lot of like consulting people do really well in those strategy classes. And I got really interested in like strategy. And back then, like GE was still like kind of the top management and sort of strategy company. And like for some reason, I just had my eyes on GE. And one of my classmates worked at GE before, and so he introduced me to someone on the China team. So, long story short, I wanted to do strategy and managing and training, but the job was just, I mean, it's fine, but it's just, it's not that exciting and you don't really learn that much. And I think the people around you are not that inspiring in corporate for me at a place like GE. And whereas like in banking, one of the best things about banking is you work with really smart people.
Right.
And so, but my, one of my Stanford classmates was working at Sequoia and he was like, hey, we're going to like do this angel fund. And he was like, do you want to do this thing? And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And then he's like, well, there's this guy like Xu Xiaoping and he's like we want to do like a YC. And then I was like, I don't know what YC is. It's like YC was early days in YC. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're so out. And I was like, yeah, I think you have the wrong person. But then he was like, you should meet Xu Xiaoping. So I met him and then Xu Xiaoping really liked me because I like showed up with my like banker skills, like computer, like white collar shirt, like taking notes on everything he said. And he was like, oh, this is exactly what I need. And so it was totally random. And I had just gotten married. I was G's in Shanghai. My husband's in Beijing. So I was like, I want to move back to Beijing. And so I just did it for totally random. And I was like, you know what, I want to get into like a fast growth company. Like at that time, Groupon was hiring. I was thinking about joining Groupon. But I was like, if I do this VC thing first, maybe I'll figure out like which company's good and then I'll join the company from there. So still like had the mindset of going to a company later, maybe like trying to be like a Sheryl Sandberg. But then I started doing it in the first day of my job when I like looked at companies and started valuing business plans. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so cool. And so I just really didn't want to be an investor. But turns out like investing has many different definitions. Like hedge fund is so different from PE and VC and angel. Like it's all so different. So just because like I don't want to be in PE doesn't mean that I don't want to be in VC.
Absolutely, absolutely. Was it a hard decision for you to make after graduating, upon graduation from Stanford, was your MBA, whether to stay in California in the US or to come back to China and join GE or start your own business maybe later? Was it also kind of like a back and forth between your own head?
No, my like pretty clear, like the way the growth was in China, and like it was like far more interesting place to be. I think Silicon Valley in America is the most interesting place to be. But I just thought China was 10 times more interesting. Plus, I was at that point engaged to my husband that I had dragged to China. So he was like waiting for me, personal reasons. But yeah, I don't regret that decision. And I think it's I really don't understand why people stay in the US, to be honest. I think that like the growth and momentum is here. You have so many opportunities. I mean, if you look at my own career, like there's no way that someone at Sequoia in Silicon Valley would ask someone from GE, like a random person, classmate, to run their like angel fund.
Right.
You know, that only happens in China because like, like the business school class has like 10 Chinese kids per year. And then that guy happened to think of me because I was running the GCBC club and he thought I'd be like, a good person for shoe shopping. It was totally random. And these kind of opportunities I think happen in China. But it's hard in the US where things are more professional and structured.
And established. Exactly. So Anke Hao, one of our board member on LTF, actually has a question. Where should someone start learning about VC and startup in China if they are currently based in the US, but they're interested in potentially going to China in the future to work in VC?
I think this is like, VC is a really local business. So it depends. I think it's really case by case. Like it's hard for people who I don't know if this person is American or ABC or Chinese, but you really have to be like, like TDT, like you have to be really on the ground and have the network of founders, I think. So it's a really hard business to sort of get into. Plus VC firms almost never hire because their teams are really small. So it's a good question, but I think if there's specific verticals, like where the US is stronger, let's say VR, like, if that person, if he's like interning for a VR company and then wants to come to China to do like investing in the VR sector, like you have some kind of expertise that's unavailable. I think that is something that looks more attractive. Like, I think if it's something consumer internet, I think China's probably a little bit ahead of the game, with consumer internet. So I think it has to be something like more technology or SaaS, like enterprise. US, I think, is ahead as well. So I think, if for someone who knows a lot about enterprise, maybe they can you can apply that knowledge in China VC.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying that you should come back, I guess, from US or come from US to China if you're working in industry or if you already have expertise in industry that the US are ahead, right? Or have a comparative advantage in that sense than China, maybe a few years ahead. Like, I guess a good example I can think about is if, Uber took off in US first, and then you saw that's a great opportunity in China, you brought the idea back and you start your own ride hailing company or investing in them, right? That would be the kind of opportunity that will be fit for someone to come back to China.
I think so. Or just come back and just try to get an internship first or work in an internet company, or like just kind of, get your foot in the door with something internet fast growing related.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice for many of the people in our audience today who are thinking about whether they will come back and what they will do after they come back. So I guess you mentioned just very quickly that VCs have very few openings each year. They don't take a lot of people. They don't take a lot of newcomers. So would your advice for college students or call it undergrad more specifically, which are most of the audience today, to not go into VC right after undergrad because maybe there's just not enough openings to accommodate so many interests. Is it better to kind of switch career like you did after a few years working somewhere else to gain that expertise and that experience that you alluded to?
I think VC is not very structured training. We don't really teach people. I don't think other firms are really teaching people how to do VC. It's like very much an apprentice sort of job. And I think for us, we hire 50% of our people are from our internship program. So we usually get like 1 or 2 offers after each internship program. And then the other 50 come out of like industry. So we have like 3 people from Tencent. We just hired someone who has done like a few startups, and then he was most recently at ByteDance.
Right.
So like we're hiring from like pools of people we're watching, like from industry itself. And I think like for like a Sequoia, I know like if they're hiring for their AI team, they're really looking for someone with AI experience. So it's really hard, but I think there's definitely some good examples of people who started from college. Those being like Cao Yi from Source Code.
Right.
Like he graduated Tsinghua and then just went to, I don't know if it was Sequoia or somewhere else first, but there are some people who do it straight out of college. And I think those people, like, you really have to know that you want to do VC.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should know that, yeah, it's not good training, but like, this is what you want to do. And you have to be someone who's good at like finding new things. VC is all about like the future, like what's happening 5 to 10 years later. So you have to be someone who's like constantly like, I mean, I think there's certain qualities, like, you're always looking for new things. You're like, trying to find new trends. Like, I think that if you think you're well, then you can do it. But I think that investment banking has nothing to do, I mean, with VC. It's a totally different game. I think that strategy, like consulting, is much more applicable to VC because you're looking at like opportunities. You can talk about frameworks. When you're assessing company, you can look at the company's opportunities. But investment banking is like very financial. And so I think like if you really love finance, which I don't, but if you really love finance, then investment banking is great. A hedge fund PE are great for people who love finance. But otherwise, I think like consulting, if you're going to like a big firm, is more applicable to VC.
Right. That's great advice. And just elaborating on that. So Caroline Zhang, one of our audience today, asked, what skills and qualities that ZhenFund look for when recruiting new members, besides, I guess, having eyes for the future, always thinking about the next disruption. What else do you normally look at when you hire new people at ZhenFund?
For us, we're super early, so we're before like VC. So we're really looking to see if someone can find like new deals ultimately, but not from the beginning, but someone who can like diligently do their work, but also have like a network to bring in new deals. I think for me, like my network was like a Liu Zhizheng, like highway network, especially revolving around the Stanford community that is very entrepreneurial. So I think that helped me. And then other people, like I said, the Tencent people, like they know the Tencent. So it's, I think some people, I mean, and there are other ways, like some people, maybe it's that you look at like the app rankings like every week in all the categories, and like maybe you wrote a code to see which app would like increase the most level, like increase their rankings to enter the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it, like maybe you have like some way to monitor and you can discover like new apps or things like that. The app age is a little bit over, but maybe there's some way that like, or maybe there's some Douyin formula, TikTok formula for you to find like new brands. Like it has to be like something like, I always like to learn something from people that are joining ZhenFund, that like people that, and also people that we're investing in, like be able to learn something from them.
Perfect. So let's move on to talk a little more about, I guess, the investment philosophy of ZhenFund, the deals that was made in the past, and the lessons that was learned in that process. One of our audience, Wesley, is asking that early stage investing often relies on judgment and pattern recognition, like you said. What are some of the metrics or qualities that you look at in a company or its management that have proven to be important predictors of success after 10 years in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, we often get it wrong. Say like 50% of the time we do get it wrong, but things that we look for, definitely like founder has to be smart and curious and like constantly learning. That's really important. The second is we look at their relevant experience. So like I think it's easy to have like a good idea. Like let's say you want to do a beauty brand. It's a big industry, but it's like, why is David the one to create a beauty brand? You know, or like why should David be selling secondhand cars? Like, yeah, of course, secondhand car industry in China is really big, but we look for people who maybe like have deep insight into whatever they're doing. And then third would be like we look at their like influence, like okay, like David is running a club, clearly he has some, you know, leadership experience. So we look for qualities, you know, that prove this person can run like a 20,000 person company or something like that. So those, and then we also look for the team. I think the team is really important because nothing can be done by themselves, right? So so like David might be a strong strategist, but David might need someone from the tech side to help him, maybe someone with experience in other areas, like maybe a COO. So like we would look for like complement, we call it the 3 C's: complementarity, chemistry, and compromise, like a team that can work together. So we look for that stuff. And then we just kind of look for people to be
chemistry and compromise, you said?
complementarity, compromise, and chemistry.
Chemistry. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And then we look for like Neil Rim plus Arnil. We want like the second founder to be like also like a bull, like really, really strong. I think it's really important. Sometimes you have founders who are like maybe themselves strong, but the rest of the team's really weak. But we really want like the number 2, number 3, all to be people that like we would individually invest in. And then we also look at them compared to other people. So it's like, is David the best? Sorry, I'm just using an example, but is the best amongst like all the juniors or all the college students in the US? Or is he like, you know, like we're looking for like sort of exceptional like talent, entrepreneurial talent. We like people who are like very entrepreneurial. I find that like, so like, for instance, people who come from banking background, we don't, I think are not very good entrepreneurs. They're usually less risk taking, not, it's more of like a corporate type, which is fine, but maybe they like banker type is better for like joining later, like joining a company later, growing a company or like later stage. But since we're so early, we're really looking for that raw talent, like 0 to 1. Like for example, we didn't invest in the company, but like there's this Harvard person, and he's like he started selling things when he was like in first grade. Let's say it was like lemonade. Okay. And then he was like the youngest intern at like, you know, Apple, and then did a VR company and sold it probably for not much money. But this is all like pre-college, you know, so it's like someone who has that entrepreneurial spirit. So like that's something that like would make us think was interesting, you know, like someone who's pretty different and has demonstrated like entrepreneurship. So we look a lot at, to Wesley's question, like we look a lot at like the entrepreneurial qualities of somebody. And usually like we tend to prefer people who are almost like serial entrepreneurs. Like they've started, like they dabbled in some things. This is on the investing side, not the VC side. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If someone have a proven track record of starting a number of firms before, even though it didn't, you know, succeed, you know, they have the drive, they have the passion and what it takes to unite a team and to pursue their goal, right? So I think that's definitely a good predictor. So I guess another question now one of our audience have is Howdy, who's also from LTF Venture, a board member. He said that for the most successful startups that ZhenFund invested in, there are many of them. What are some commonalities of them during their early stage, beside the people factor that you just talked about? What are some, I guess, predictor of their success besides just the people are great and they are dedicated?
I think like either they created something new or it was like a big market to begin with. So let me use like 小红书 and Mamirji, like Red and Perfect Diary as the example. So like for example, 小红书 is an example of something that pivoted. So like Charwin, the founder, wanted to do travel related, but he also is really hungry. Like he wants to do like at least a $10 billion company. And so for him, and then he realized the travel thing wasn't really getting so big. And so it became more like how to buy things and then e-commerce and then now more social and now adding video and live stream and back to e-commerce. So like, I think that like in a lot of startups, you kind of learn and change and pivot along the way
Right.
if you want to get big. And so that's one that I think really created the current like KOL sort of one home market and like sort of consumer trends and like something stylish. You know, they set the market early on. And then I think for like Perfect Diary, for example, like beauty is obviously a humongous market in China, right? Or around the world. Estee Lauder is a $100 billion company. I mean, L'Oreal is over 100 billion. Estee Lauder is like 50, I think, or 80 billion dollars. Like these are huge companies. So of course, China would have its own. And I think so. Sometimes what I'm saying is that you create something that didn't exist before, like Douyin, TikTok, Toutiao, like those are all quite sure. Like they created this like video
Yeah.
economy called economy. And then sometimes like Yuan Xi like people have been drinking beverages and water for a long time, but maybe you create like, you know, sparkling or like something, have like a different TODM, but into a humongous sector. So I think that it needs to be like a huge, huge sector. And the reason I said we don't always get it right is because sometimes like you think something is going to be big, but then let's say, but then you didn't realize like all the reasons why it didn't get big. You know, it could be team reason, it could be market wasn't ready, like market staged surely, or your competitors became like right now, for example, Shengxian is really popular right now, like 实体团购, like buying fresh produce. And we're in the top 3 startups, which are Xinsheng, 实惠团, and Tongcheng for social e-commerce. And it's the biggest battle right now, I think, in the internet industry. But now Pinduoduo and Meituan like are spending like $5 or $10 billion on all this stuff. So it's getting harder for the startups and everyone's burning like a ton of money every month. But those big companies have a lot of cash. So I think they're always like, and then there's also a lot of regulation issues. Like the other week I had 4 companies experience regulation issues, things from like 电子烟, e-cig regulation to whether you can use CBD in cosmetics, to education saying like, you know, nothing under age 6, you know, or like only like 素质教育 for under 6, to like what happens with peer-to-peer like insurance models and peer-to-peer internet model. So I think that all happened to me in like 1 week. So I think there are always like a lot of factors that hinder companies along the way. And the key thing is like, can the founder like take the company, take the boat out of this messy water eventually?
Right, exactly. It's interesting you touch upon, I guess, the regulations that many of the startups you invest in are facing right now in China in different respect. We actually have a question from Dante Viceport, who is a managing partner of LTF Ventures. He asks, early stage VCs largely about people market fit, but in China, you know, friendly relationship with the government seems critical to achieve large scale financial success, or maybe it's a myth. But we'll hear from you. But how does startups in China navigate that relationship with the government in order to maximize their chance of success? Or is it necessary for them to do that at a very early stage? Or do you have only need to worry about, I guess, the regulation when it comes?
Yeah, I would say most startups are really bad at it and they don't really worry about it. And then I think, so, and I don't think there's a need to worry about it, but if you become big, like it's definitely, I mean, and you're in a sensitive industry, let's call it like Baidu or ByteDance, like regulations definitely like, I don't know, top 1 to 2 on your list of things that you have to deal with. And you have to become good at that eventually. So it's hard to navigate. We try to give people advice on these, like we have lots of advisors in this area. I mean, it doesn't always help, but I think that very early stage, there's no need to worry. And then it has to be a skill that the founder needs to be able to learn over time.
Gotcha. So compliance and regulation is definitely a big part that a lot of startup founders should pay more attention to, right? Okay, so let's, I guess, delve a little deeper into the two firms that you mentioned. I guess those are perhaps the crown jewels of your portfolio, over 700 company strong portfolio, which is One Meiji Perfect Diary, the cosmetic company, and also Xiaohongshu Little Red Book, the social e-commerce platform. And when you invested in those two companies, correct me if I was wrong, like they're at a very, very early stage that they don't even have maybe their product, they don't even have their first customer yet. For Xiaohongshu, it's just a idea, right? That someone is going to found this platform for travelers, and you immediately decided to back them. And for Wanmei it's before they even have a shop on Taobao, that you and ZhenFund decided to go in and back them. So what's a heuristic there at that early stage, right? Like if somebody tells you an idea that they say it's going to work, and there are maybe three other people who are saying the same thing to you, who do you decide to back at that time? That's so early, before any product is actually available on the market.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the core thing we do. I think that both of these founders, like they were MBAs, and like I know that I have been friends with them for a long time. So like if you know somebody and you know their like sort of hunger level, like I know that both of them want to create something big and they've seen a lot of big companies. So it's like, so it's someone that you want to learn from and like be with along the way that they explore their startup. So it's like someone you want to help, spend time with. I think there are a lot of people with good ideas, but like you feel like maybe they have a personal ceiling. And with some people, you feel like their ceiling is like endless. There's someone who's like pretty strategic and like thoughtful and has like new ideas, and someone you want to like learn with them about certain markets.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. Um, and Yuki Yuminaga, who's one of our audience today, is asking, what do you think about the challenges of Chinese startups entering global market? So for me, I think a lot of the portfolio company that ZhenFund invested in, including we just talked about Wanmei and Xiaohongshu, is really big for the Chinese consumer market, right? A lot of them are gaining incredible momentum. I think Xiaohongshu has over 100 million daily active users today. But the second question is, how do they branch out to other market, to the US, to Europe, to other developing world? One example I think I can think about that internationalized really well is TikTok, right? That's basically everybody's favorite now in the US. But how does other companies that are first more catered to the Chinese community actually enter into the global market and become competitive there?
Um, I think it's something on a lot of people's minds, and I think there are a lot of opportunities. Like Perfect Diaries, selling a little bit to Southeast Asia, and I know they want to do more abroad. Soundshu, I think, had explored maybe doing more abroad, but then realized there's so much they can do in China. So it was always like for the founder, like how much time you want. I mean, China is such a big domestic market. I think most people were just only thinking domestic, but then now people are looking for growth from abroad. And I think like we have companies doing like what do you call it, like homeware, like bras, underwear, like that category, and made home, like colored contact lenses, like all these companies like trying to do the US. There's also an interesting trend now of Chinese companies selling on Amazon. So like we have a brand that's trying to be like electronics, like kitchen appliances on Amazon. We have an MRO1, like kind of home improvement related, like safety glasses, drills. That's a Chinese company selling on Amazon. Amazon has a new interesting, there's a startup called Thrasio, which is growing really fast. It's like a Amazon roll up. They're rolling up lots of mom and pop companies on Amazon. So I think there's like a lot of like China supply chain related
Yes.
opportunity abroad, like Shein being the main one. I mean, I don't know if people, I'm sure people on this call it at Chicago Buy from Shein. There's a new one called Shopsider, Halara, Flamingo. Like a lot of people trying to sell abroad in the US, and then Anchor being the one that's selling on Amazon really well with electronics. So yeah, so I think there are a lot of like we call it like cross-border, outbound cross-border opportunities right now.
You think that's a trend for Chinese companies that eventually they'll have to internationalize, or do you think that they can just be content with the home market
I think either is fine, but I think because Chinese products, I mean, the product team and technology and consumer and growth, to be honest, I mean, as in like growth hacking, is like people are really skilled in China because the competition is so fierce here. So you have to be, to be competitive, you have to have like new ways of getting traffic and interest, like innovation and getting customers. That I think China has like some of the best product teams in the world. And so that means I think there will be more global companies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I have a personal question also just on top of that, is that because recently we've seen news about the Chinese government regulating some of those platform companies, the giants, Alibabas, it's they invoke the anti-monopoly law in order to do so. Do you think that their I guess regulation of these really large players in the Chinese tech sector would actually create opportunities for smaller startups to get into some of those fields that previously might be a huge barriers of entry because of those really big internet companies being there already?
Yes, I do think it creates an opportunity for startups. It's a good question. The information also asked me the same question. I think that it does open up room for startups. And I think that it also, like with one of my brands, like Ali wanted to sign like a 3-year exclusive with them. And then like the day of the anti-monopoly thing, they said you don't need to be exclusive anymore for 3 years. So I think that's also like, there's some benefits there. However, I think there are going to be higher costs to being compliant, which is not good for startups. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So there's pros and cons, right? When you enter industries that are sensitive and might face regulations, that makes a lot of sense. One of our audience, Rende Zhu, was asking that since China is such a fast-paced market, how do you actually successfully pinpoint the key growth opportunities there? How do you know that which sector is going to be the trend? Do you have to tap into almost the mentality of the young people born in the 19s or the 2000s? How do you keep up with that trend? How do you anticipate the trend?
Well, I do often ask my brother, who's also on the call, about like what young people are using. And, he did tell me about things like White Claw, which now is like, last year was a huge startup like trend, like just, that kind of soda alcohol thing. But I really rely on the founders. Like, I think when we did Perfect Diary, like nobody was really interested in investing in brands. But the founder was so great. So he obviously sees an opportunity. I think that you invest in people who see, like we invested in AI companies before there was this whole AI theme. Back then it was just called computer vision. And later they became like the top AI companies. So I think like for us, we're so early. So we're investors in Huobi, right now it's really popular because of Coinbase. But we invested 10 years ago before like crypto was really popular. And I think it's just like, you're thinking, okay, there's this thing. And if it takes off, maybe it'll like right now, like, VR is something interesting. Like if it takes off, it would be disruptive. And so, you have to get in like pretty early. So we don't think about it really ourselves, but we kind of know like, okay, like crypto, VR, like there are things, but there are a lot of trends that you can't predict. And I think it's a lot of really strong founders who created like the idea of consumer brands in China. It's not really like, I didn't like, I'm not trying to make that happen. It's just, we're backing people who like, it's the founders who really make it happen.
Do you think that a lot of time it's a younger generation that are driving a lot of those market trends these days? Like I think Xiaohongshu's founder was saying that now it's not just, moms and women in general sharing and buying stuff online. It's their kids too. It's people who were born, in the 90s and 2000 who's on the platform that's driving the user experience. Do you echo that kind of sentiment?
I think there are definitely, like for VR, for example, we think that the people who are going to disrupt this industry probably are not from my generation, it's probably your generation, because like you guys grew up on mobile more than I did. Like Facebook didn't come around till I was a senior in college. And now it's like an ancient product you guys don't even use. So I think there's some internet like product and tech trends that will be started by young geniuses. But then I think there's some industries where like SaaS and healthcare, where most of our founders in those industries are like over 40.
Gotcha. Okay. So it depends on the industry, right? Some of
Depends.
them requires a little more
Yeah.
expertise and experience. All right. Okay. In the last 5 minutes, we'll ask maybe a few more casual and interesting questions, but also related to startup and the work you do. One of them is actually from Wesley Sun. He's wondering if you have any favorite books or blogs or people that you look up to in VC investing that would potentially, sometime you consult their wisdom in order to make a decision.
Yeah, I think I have a few mentors in this. I mean, the one that's like this past year, like a new friend has been Bill Gurley from Benchmark.
Okay.
And I met him at like a conference. I like asked him for a one-on-one, and then he took it, and then he really like enjoyed listening to some of the trends in China, and then like we became good friends. So then, not friends, but like whatever, like he'll message me about some stuff that he's thinking about in the US, like InstaWorks, and then he'll have like the founder ask me about like stuff in China. So and he has a blog, I think it's called like Up Above the Cloud or something. He's really tall, so that's why he gave
Up
that name.
above the crowd.
A16Z.
Yes.
A16Z has a really good podcast that I think a lot of people listen to. They just did something on the creator economy, which I think is pretty interesting. And then in terms of like things in China, I mean, there are so many. I don't follow any religiously, but I think at this point all pushed to me through various groups that I'm in.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. And yeah, Wes, definitely look up those blogs and podcasts if you like. And one of our board member, Howdy, is asking a interesting question. If you can create a vending machine that supplies an unlimited amount of certain product, what product would it be, and where would you put that vending machine?
Well, this was like a big trend 4 or 5 years ago. There were vending machines for basketballs, umbrellas at the subway station, toilet paper at the subway station, obviously juice and drinks and coffee. I don't know. I mean,
But what's your vending
well,
machine?
one of the guys on my team was like obsessed with the toilet paper vending machine. And he actually put money in it. He's not with us anymore, but I don't know. I never saw that product, but I think it was kind of like the funniest one.
He would have made a lot of money if he did that in US during the pandemic. Everybody was rushing to get their
For toilet paper.
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
Maybe it's a great idea, just wrong country, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess just to close today's webinar, going back to, because it's a U Chicago community and a lot of the people here are U Chicago undergrad, a lot of them are thinking about coming, maybe working in VC, maybe even recruiting for ZhenFund. Is there any tips or advice that you want to give to anyone thinking about entering VC after they graduate, maybe applying to ZhenFund? Do you think they can add any value to ZhenFund? Would you recruit from U Chicago students? Just asking for the.
Yeah, absolutely. Had Martin as an intern before, and we are recruiting for our next batch of. So we do gap year. So usually you have the gap year interns, and you guys are welcome to apply. And we would love students from Chicago. Martin was a great intern. Yeah, so I think and Wesley did intern here a long time ago too. So I think you guys all know how to get a hold of me. I'm like half part of the community. So you guys are definitely welcome to apply. We do prioritize like gap year interns. So taking the whole gap year. And then because a lot of people do take the gap year they sacrifice to be part of our internship program. And then there are like pretty extensive interview rounds. And you have to really want it.
Awesome. And if you like, we can even connect you with the career advancement department, where sometimes they can subsidize a lot of the interns who end up working for the firms that are hiring. So if that's something that you're looking into, we can definitely collaborate a little more with the university to even make more UChicago interns happen at ZhenFund.
I would say like we got 3,000 applications for like, I think 15 spots. Wow. So it's just, I think people need to be pretty prepared when they apply for the internship.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that people in this chat will be prepared, some of them. But thank you so much, Anna, for joining us for the first inaugural speaker event, Flying with Phoenix. As a Phoenix yourself, thank you for teaching some of the younger birds how to fly. And for those who would like to learn more about VC and apply for startup fundings, you can come to LTF. And if you are in China, you have a product you want to launch, you can also go now to Anna and ZhenFund if that's what you want. So thank you so much for joining us today for this wonderful events with Anna. And thank you again, Anna, for joining.
Thank you. And David, you are an excellent host. Can't believe you're only a junior in college.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to have you. And I'll speak to you soon and have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, Anna.